I think masking feels safer. It feels like survival. And for some of us, we've been doing it for so long as a means of survival. It's like we slip into it like you put on a coat or a second skin without realizing you've
Mhm.
done it.
Welcome back to the Vibe with Kai podcast presented by Sucre Bay. Sucre Bay is an incredible indie perfume house that is all about storytelling and geek culture. We actually collaborated on a scent called Why Did I Walk Into This Room? It features amazing notes of cherry pie, cinnamon, and acceptance. And honestly, it's a gender neutral love letter to the ADHD community, and I am obsessed with it. If you ever felt like you were constantly putting on a mask just to survive the workday, or if you ever beaten yourself up over executive dysfunction, this episode is exactly what you need to hear. Today, I'm sitting down with my friend, Lori Glenn. Lori Glenn is a registered psychotherapist, a clinical supervisor, and the founder of Calming Minds Therapy and Wellness in Ontario, Canada. She is a fellow ADHDer who truly understands what it means to take the mask off and finally find self-compassion. Now, a quick heads up before we dive in. During this interview, we do a special segment called Reverse the Mic. Lori actually puts me in the hot seat and I have to answer some fun personal questions that I've never been asked publicly before. Now, in this podcast, it'll automatically skip over that section of the interview. But if you want to hear that exclusive cut of that Reverse the Mic segment with Lori Glenn, you can subscribe and join the subscriber family on Patreon or on Facebook for only $5 a month. And not only will you get access to that hidden segment, but you'll also get full access to my ADHD deep dive library. That library is packed with exclusive ADHD videos not found on any of my social media channels, and they go into deep detail to help adults fully understand their ADHD. All right, my friends, let's get right into it. Here is my conversation with Lori Glenn. What's up, friends? I'm sitting here with my friend Lori Glenn hanging out today. What's up, Lori? I said it right? It's Lori?
Yeah, you got it right, Kai.
I wanted to make sure because I have a weird name, so I always want to make sure that I say other people's names correctly. You know what I'm saying?
I respect that. I do.
I'm really happy. I'm really happy that you're here. Before we started recording, we were talking about Canada for a moment, and I was saying that I have grown a fondness for my Canadian friends. For my Canadian friends for multiple reasons for multiple reasons, mainly apologetic, but
We're known for our politeness.
yeah, but I have to say, honestly, I know it's cliche to say that Canadians are incredibly nice, but no, you are all so sweet and kind, and every single person that I've met or interviewed from Canada, is just like the nicest person in the world. So shout out to Canada for
Well,
that.
thank you. I'll take that. We often get told that. I went to a concert once in the States, and they
Yeah.
had said to me, some of the folks, when I said I was from Canada, they were like, "Oh, you have free healthcare there." That was kind of the thing they knew about Canada, right?
You're like, we're a lot more than that, I promise. Yeah.
Exactly. I was like, "Yep,
Yeah.
we do, but we're also known for being super nice."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, everybody's been so sweet. And I've learned a lot about you, Lori. I saw you mentioned yourself being and correct me if I'm wrong, a wannabe full-time kayaker. Is that true?
Yes, if only I
Is that
had more
true?
time. That's my retirement plan, is
I
to
love that.
live near the water and kayak.
Yeah. I love that. So when you're out on the water in a kayak, does that provide a quiet space for an ADHD brain for you?
For me, it does. It's
Yeah.
one of the times that I feel like, and I like to get in where the big boats don't go, so it's not
Sure.
super busy, and
Yeah.
it just really feels quiet, and everything
Mhm.
around me is quiet. My brain quiets, and it slows down a bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to have those checkpoints, or I call them fill your cup activities, but things that
Right.
just help my brain quiet down, because I know we all have different neurodivergent profiles. My brain tends to go at the speed of light, right? So anything I can do to quiet it down or shut down all those browsers that are open all at once.
Right.
And something about nature and the water and getting away from humanity and all the hustle and bustle
Oh
really
yeah.
does help just kind of bring things down.
You want to know something funny, Lori? I have a fear of open water.
No
I am
way.
frightened. So like I can be on a boat. I can swim. I can go in a pool. Like that doesn't scare me. Like water itself doesn't scare me, but open water frightens me. So like if I'm in the middle of like a gigantic lake and I can either barely see or I can't see where the shore is, frightened. I panic.
I
I
can understand
panic.
that because there's a sense of being a small fish in a big pond. Like
Yes.
there is this sense of
Yes.
being very small on a big
Yes, and you don't
lake.
know what's underneath of you and stuff, it's just like anything could be down there, anything, and that, like, the thought of that frightens me, I can't do it. So it's
And
not good
when
for
you
my
look down,
anxiety.
you can't see anything down there.
Yeah,
So I can
no,
understand
no,
feeling that
no.
way. The
Yeah.
only time I get really freaked out is if the weather turns quickly, and especially if
Ah,
you're
that's
on a
fair.
big body of water, that can get
That's fair.
a little hairy.
Yeah,
But for the most part, because I tend to go where the big boats don't go, I'm always near shore. So that usually feels
that's good
pretty
to know.
safe,
That
right?
makes me feel better, Lori, that makes me feel better. You you always described yourself as the different weird kid growing up. So, like, looking back, what was the most, I guess, Lori thing that you did, which you now realize was 100% ADHD?
Oh, um, I used to draw on my hands a
Okay.
lot.
Mhm.
Like with I'd get bored. I'm just hypothesizing I would get bored. In my mind, I think I would get bored because
Sure.
I'd start doodling all over my hands with markers and I would end up covered in marker, almost like that Robert Munch book. And so I would get in trouble all the time for
Mhm.
having marker all over me. Um, and now I realize that was probably like back in the day, we didn't have fidgets, we didn't have accommodations for fidgets, we didn't know.
Meanwhile, as I sit here with mine.
I have mine too,
There we
yep.
go.
Almost oftentimes when I do virtual sessions, I still have
Yeah,
fidgets with me, right?
yeah.
It's the sitting still part's really hard.
Yes. Sure.
So I realize now that the thing I used to always get in trouble for
Mhm.
was definitely neurodivergent. That was, in lieu of stimming.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
What you started Calming Minds back in 2016, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken. What was the, I guess, specific moment that you realized that the world needed a space which didn't treat neurodivergence like a problem to solve? Like, was there a specific moment that stands out to you?
I worked in the non-for-profit sector starting in 2005 before I opened
Mhm,
my own clinic in 2016 or went out on my own. And, I worked in a lot of hospital-based settings, so I saw the way
mhm,
that we kind of pathologized, and they wouldn't
mhm,
even touch ADHD, like, they wouldn't even consider looking
mhm.
at ADHD, which I can go on a whole tangent about how that leads to a ton of misdiagnosis, and the
Right.
research would say 30% actually of individuals with
Mhm.
ADHD are
Yeah,
misdiagnosed, and I
yeah.
think that has a lot to do with certain centers just not even willing to consider that diagnosis, which means you're not even
Sure.
looking in that direction. Um, and I myself had ADHD and I used to hide it because it was not
Mhm.
something, it was this worry of like, what would
You would
employers
mask it?
think? Yep,
Yeah. Mhm.
exactly. I remember I had an employer say to me once, she said to me, she was my supervisor. She's a dear friend now still. And she had said at the time, you're really hard to get to know. She's like, "It's like there's another part of you that you just hold back from all of
Mm.
us here." And I was like, "Yeah, because if I don't,
Yeah.
there's that fear of being judged and
Sure.
ostracized." And so
Sure.
I think in hindsight, when I reflect on it, it still was 5 years before I went out on my own, but that was one of the moments where I realized, I really wanted to be able to support people and be able to just be me and
Mhm.
be able to say, "Hey, I'm an ADHD therapist, and so
Sure.
I get it." And it works really well. Like I have some clients that come in and they've said like they've worked with neurotypical therapists, not to criticize at all. They're fantastic
Mhm.
neurotypical therapists too,
Yeah.
but we're on the same wavelength. They feel like they're not necessarily maybe having to over explain or they don't have to mask the same way. And some of the things that feel silly, like we get it,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So you talked about like she said that it was hard for her to get to know you, right? So does that go with the invisible wall that you talk about, like between you and other people? And if so, like can you describe how that wall, I guess, manifests for an adult who I would imagine you were trying to build meaningful connections, but you did have this wall up. So how does that wall manifest itself for an adult that wants to have those meaningful connections?
I mean, I think they grow as kids,
Yeah.
and then as adults, they're just there. But it took me a while to come to realize, like the social skills piece there, I think too, sometimes
Mhm.
missing the joke in the room, not always
Mhm.
understanding the joke, um, not being sure how to incorporate humor sometimes, or being
Sure.
able to read those pieces. So there's times where when I talk about the invisible wall, it feels like there's been times in social experiences where everyone's being really nice. No one is being mean or intentionally ostracizing. And
Mhm.
yet I still don't feel like I'm part of the group. I still don't feel like I'm on their wavelength, or I feel like I'm missing something. So, like, I'm there,
Mhm.
I'm present. There's nobody that's making me feel like I'm not part of it. And yet I just feel like there's this invisible threshold I can't cross. And
Sure.
over the years, I've come to understand the pieces of RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, the
Mhm.
pieces around social skills, um, and sometimes being too exuberant, or
Mhm. Yeah.
trying to be too funny, or trying too hard. And then that takes you in the other direction of them being the weird kid.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I one of the things that I want to talk about because I found this interesting. You had mentioned because you just went through like a bunch of things that ADHDers struggle with, and one of the things that you talk about is things like time blindness, right? Where you mentioned that time blindness is misunderstood from a
Hmm.
clinical perspective. I guess if you don't mind, can you explain what occurs in our brains when the clock sometimes it feels like it's more of like a suggestion than an actual rule, right? So like what's happening inside of our brains that this is going on for ADHD people?
So, I mean, we don't register time in the same way.
Yeah.
So, we don't have a barometer of how much time it takes to do something, or how much time is passing. So,
Mhm.
it's like that part of our brain, I'm going to say it's on vacation, or it's not
Yeah.
present, right? It's
Mhm.
just not there. Maybe it's out kayaking somewhere. Uh,
Maybe in the open water.
but it's when we have time blindness, and I explain this to family members I work with, of the loved ones with ADHD. We literally don't have a sense of time. And
Yes.
that's whether, how long the dishes are going to take to do versus how long it's going to
Mhm.
take me to get across town. It's why we chronically run late,
Mhm.
and over and underestimate our time,
Yeah.
or procrastinate by saying, oh, that's going to take forever to do.
Yeah.
So what happens in the brain, it's like, it's not that we are intentionally not being tuned into time. It's that there is actually no sense of time passing. We have no compass for time. I use
Mhm.
timers. When I work with my clients, I talk about the use of timers, whether that's to be on time or to have like a sense of how long it takes. I used to hate unloading the dishwasher, and I would
Sure.
fight with myself about unloading the dishwasher. Like, this is going to take forever. Started
Mhm.
timing myself. It almost universally never takes more than 5 minutes to unload the
Yeah.
dishwasher. So
Yeah.
now when my brain is saying, oh, it's going to take forever, I can be like, no, it's going to
Yeah.
take less than 5 minutes. Do you have five
Mhm.
minutes you can give right now? Right?
Mhm.
Because my brain, 5 minutes could feel like forever when you're doing something you don't want to be doing.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard. I feel like I feel like it's one of those things that's easier said than done, right? Because like to think about it from that perspective, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. It's gonna take a couple minutes. But like when we're in the moment, and I'm sure and obviously you know this too, like when we're in the moment, even that 5 minutes can sometimes feel like
An
a
eternity.
long, long, long time, right?
Yeah.
And so like what about those moments? Like what can people do like even like if they're trying to talk themselves into it, but they just can't get that ball rolling. They can't push that start button.
I mean, there's a few ways that I approach it. I mean, at the end of the day, is at the end of the world if you don't get the ball rolling? Can you be
Sure.
compassionate with yourself and accept it
Yeah.
and say,
Give
I'll
yourself
do it
grace.
tomorrow?
Mhm.
Right? Like, there is
Mhm.
that, like, will the world end? Will the sky fall?
Right.
How important is it?
Mhm.
Um, there's also on the flip side, if it's like, no, this is something I need to do. There's a few, like, remind yourself, why is it important? I always talk about, like, future you will be very grateful to present you for
Mhm.
doing it. And set a reward. Like, I don't, whether you're like, chew your favorite piece of gum while you do it, put on your favorite kind of music.
Yeah.
Tell yourself you'll go down to the coffee shop and get your favorite, cup of tea after.
Sure.
But set something to look forward to, or something to increase the dopamine in your brain while you're doing the activity,
Mhm.
to help you to do the activity. And by increasing the dopamine, it kind of lets our brain associate this activity as not being so horrible and painful.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
there's so like I've never loved doing the dishes, and I have used all of those strategies I just recommended,
Yeah.
and I can
Yeah.
do the dishes, but I'll tell you, I still don't love them. And there's some days
Mhm.
I just don't do them, and I just give myself grace for it.
Sure, absolutely. And I feel like this all comes down to executive dysfunction, which is something that
100%.
we ADHDers have to deal with all the time, and we end up beating ourselves up because it's hard to distinguish, or it's hard for sometimes for us, but even other people that may be viewing it as an outsider, distinguishing between lazy and my brain is hitting a wall or I don't have enough dopamine. You know what I'm saying? For
Yes.
the vipers that for the like the people that follow me that listen to this and are often looking for some ADHD love, that struggle with executive dysfunction, how can they distinguish between being lazy and just saying, "Hey, my brain hit a wall"?
You just hit on, like, a passion thing for me there, Guy,
Yeah.
because, Russ Barkley has a statistic out there that, kids by the age of 12 have experienced 10,000 up to
Hmm.
20,000 more overcorrections in their
Yep.
behavior.
Hmm.
And I believe that's just even in a school setting, so that doesn't even include at home extracurriculars.
Yep.
So I feel like we are hardwired to have a strong inner critic as a result of our executive dysfunction, which is
Hmm.
outside our control. Like, our executive functioning challenges are not. I think we get predisposed to thinking of ourselves as lazy because of those
Sure.
overcorrections we hear. We're not enough, or we're too much, or we're just being lazy. And I so you, I think what you need to ask, usually what I work with people on is this an executive functioning thing I'm struggling with right now? Like,
Hmm.
identify that piece.
Yeah.
And is it laziness if if I don't have the ability to do something, or if I don't have, if I'm climbing up the hill at a steeper rate, I have a higher, steeper, bigger hill to climb than my friend. And
Hmm.
does that make me lazier because it's going to take me longer to get up the hill?
Right. Right. Right.
So I really
Hmm.
try to move away from that language. And I think, actually, I think Jessica McCabe, one of her, I can't remember if it was her book or her podcast. I've taken in so much of her stuff over the years. Talks about, like, just do three things. Like, what three things need to get done today?
Hmm.
And I think we try so hard to climb that steep, big hill, and keep up with neurotypical people, that it's really easy for us to label ourselves and others as lazy, not enough. I didn't get enough done today. Um, and
Hmm.
so Um, I feel like I forgot where the beginning of that
Oh
question
no,
was.
no. That was no. That was the you answered it, and like as a therapist, like do you specialize in DBT, dialectical
Yes,
behavior
I actually
therapy,
train other
right?
therapists how to use DBT for a
Yeah,
neurodivergent brain. Yeah.
right, right. And do you can you explain, number one, what that is, right? And number two, why do you feel that, I guess, traditional therapy models sometimes fail us if they lack the, I guess, adaptation to what we struggle with? So what is DBT, number one, and number two, do you think that other traditional therapy models have failed us?
So DBT it's dialectical behavior therapy. And so it is a form of cognitive therapy, similar to what most people are very familiar with CBT, cognitive
Mhm.
behavioral therapy, which I often say DBT is like CBT with feelings, because
Mhm.
what DBT focuses a lot on impulse control. So it was actually developed for impulse control disorders and folks with high suicidality or
Mhm.
high or conditions that have high emotion dysregulation. So it was, it's really good for addictions, and it tends to target those impulse control disorders, which we know with ADHD, impulse control is one of our I think it can be a strength as well as a challenge at times. I feel that way about most of our symptoms. And I think what DBT and where DBT and any other modality fails us is the minutia. If it becomes
Mm.
too complex with too many steps, we're not going to remember those steps. If there's too much homework that requires too much reading and too much
Mhm.
writing, I always ask my folks, like, how do you like to do your homework? Like, I have some clients who are like, give me a manual, give me chapters to take home. And others
Yeah.
who are like, I will never come back here if you do that to me.
Right, right.
So, if they would rather listen to podcasts or take in TED Talks versus, if they are more audio, like listening folks, it's really catering to their style. And for DBT, when I teach other therapists kind of some of the modifications, adaptations to neurodivergence, it really is also honing in on our sensory profile, our sensory needs, our neurodivergent
Mhm.
needs, some of those things that I think are really easily overlooked by the other conditions, right? Like
Right, right.
other treatments kind of make assumptions about what our sensory profile looks like, what our neurodivergent profile looks like. And I really spend a lot of time focusing on, making sure they understand what ADHD is and how we modify DBT, other than making it something that is easily digestible. There's some executive functioning, emotion regulation strategies I love
Mhm.
to layer in there that are
Mhm.
specific for emotions, particular
Yeah.
to executive dysfunction. Like, even as a therapist, the thing that's going to make me lose my marbles the fastest, still to this day, misplacing my car keys.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
sure.
Like, I
Mhm.
have a
Mhm.
place where they go, and if they get
Mhm.
lost and I am
If they're
rushing
not
out the
there,
door and
oh,
I
man,
can't find
yes.
it, and now I'm running late, and before I know it, I'm in
Yeah.
a full-on spin, like,
Yeah.
I mean, even as a therapist, I'm prone to my bouts of emotion dysregulation,
Sure.
and usually those
Mhm.
are the executive functioning things that get me. Misplacing something, and now I'm running late, and what's everyone gonna think, and I'm gonna be letting someone down, and then
Mhm.
the steamroller goes, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
with
that happens with my
DBT,
wallet all the time, like,
yes,
all the time. I'll be on my way out the door, and I'll
yes.
have everything set, and I'll be like, "Where is my wallet? Where is it?" 'Cause I'll usually keep it in one of 2 places. It's either here on my desk or on my kitchen counter. Like, it's in one of those 2
Yes.
places. If it's not there, I'm done.
Oh,
I'm done. No idea.
pandemonium,
No
right?
idea where it is. No idea.
I feel that pain 100%. So
Yeah.
I think really focusing, DBT brings a lot of value. It's how we teach it, and it's
Mhm.
also what we're focusing on, the executive functioning pieces, and
Mhm.
bringing in some of that like self kindness and
Mhm.
letting ourselves off the hook. And I think where other um, treatment modalities need to be adapted, or where they might get in the way, is the idea that we make assumptions that they're functioning from a neurotypical perspective and we just move forward, right? We
Mhm.
don't do the backtracking for the executive functioning profile and getting some of those coping tools and some of that self compassion piece, right? The self
Mhm.
kindness and self understanding and self acceptance. We
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
undo those years of overcorrections and that negative sense of self that's been built around it.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about a lot of work from Dr. Russell Barkley lately, and some of that stuff is incredibly fascinating. And anybody that's watching or listening right now, I highly encourage you to go check out the research and the mindset behind Dr. Russell Barkley, because it's
Mhm.
quite quite enlightening, very very insightful. Um, Lori, I want to go back to the story that you told about, because this has been something that just popped up in my head, and I wrote it down. I want to talk a little bit more about the masking part, right? Because I think that's important, because I find that a lot of people, including myself at times, will mask, right? And it's hard for us to show up as our authentic self,
Hmm.
you know? Why does masking, I guess, feel like the only way to survive, especially in like a professional setting or at work or like things like that? Why does masking sometimes feel like the only way that an ADHDer can survive?
I mean, you said it's survival, right? There's a fear.
Yeah,
It's almost as
yeah.
though we have, and again, this usually goes back to those that childhood piece. Kids with neurodivergence were 3 times more likely to be bullied. So we learned very young that if I act in one way, it equals being treated in a certain way. And so
Right.
we're almost like learning that masking is a safer way to navigate the world
Mm-hmm.
than when we show up as our authentic selves, because our authentic selves usually get met with some kind of criticism
Mm-hmm.
or correction or
Right.
you're weird. So I think that masking starts to feel like a survival strategy, like a defense mechanism, like something. Some of us, it's almost like autopilot. We shift right into it. And I mean, I've had folks very much so where they have had a lot of challenges at work when they've been
Mm-hmm.
their authentic selves, or um, and I mean, here in Canada, ADHD and autism, ASD, is considered a disability under the Human Rights Act for that exact reason,
Mm-hmm.
because there can be a lot of discrimination in the workplace, which discrimination comes from a lack of understanding a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, right? And so that happens as well. So, I mean, I have had folks where as soon as they've disclosed their ADHD, it's caused a lot of problems for them at work. And that's based on a lot of misunderstanding of what ADHD is. So I think masking feels safer. It feels like survival. And for some of us, we've been doing it for so long as a means of survival. It's like we slip into it like you put on a coat or a second skin without realizing you've
Mm-hmm.
done it.
Yeah, and taking off that mask is terrifying. It is so scary to take off that mask. But I feel like once you take it off, and you sometimes I guess you do feel like a weight come off your shoulders, because you're not pretending anymore, especially if you feel as though you can live more authentically in these settings. You just feel, while it is scary, I remember when I first started like openly talking about my ADHD, especially at work, because I would never bring it up at work, but I started talking openly about it, and I personally just felt better talking
Yes.
about it. From your experience and from the people that you talk to, when it comes to unmasking and truly being your authentic self, what is that feeling that people usually get? What was that feeling that you got when you started to live a little bit more authentically?
Less anxiety.
Mhm.
I feel like when we live more authentically, we start to come more into a natural alignment with ourselves. So it feels like you're not carrying as much. So
Mhm.
there was less anxiety, and when you're accepted as you are, like when you can be your authentic self and show up in that way and feel still a sense of acceptance or success, there's more self-acceptance and self-love and integration of like, okay, this isn't such a bad thing because, we grow up. I work with, we have, kids that can really view their ADHD as like this, I am bad and I don't want this part of myself anymore.
Mhm.
And that's really tragic. And I think when we can show up as our authentic selves and take the mask off, oh, it feels lighter, there's less anxiety, and we feel
Mhm.
truly more accepted as we are. And that
Right,
starts to
right.
undo some of that inner critic.
Sure, sure. You use the phrase that ADHD is a gift, and a lot of people do. And I am famously known for believing that ADHD is not a superpower by any means. But with that being said, I understand why people say that, why they view it that way. And I have nothing against it, especially if it's something like we have to cling on to everything we got sometimes. Anything that can get us through the day, like that's fine,
Amen to that.
right? Um, how do you find the middle ground between, I guess, appreciating our unique brains, but also acknowledging the genuine struggle that we have to deal with
Mhm.
every day? Like, how do we find that middle ground? Is there a middle ground?
I think it's recognizing where your strengths are in your
Mm-hmm.
neurodivergence and where your challenges are, and they show up differently for
Sure.
all of us. Um, that's one of the first things I do with people is kind of help them figure out that profile so that they can figure out like where are my strengths and where are the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And a middle ground is I mean, for myself, I use a lot of humor. So when the challenging
Samesies,
parts
twinsies.
come up, I'll be like, "Oh, look at that!" Like, so I do tend to use the squirrels analogy a lot. I know there's also
Mm-hmm.
in the ADHD field, some folks feel that that can be, um, stigmatizing in nature. For me, I've always kind of the squirrel has always kind of felt like a spirit animal. It's a
Sure,
big use of
sure.
the humor. So it's easier for me to kind of be like, oh, there's the squirrels. And I use it even in my, because I have a kid and there's times where he's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
mom, you're late again. And I'm just like, dude, the
Mm-hmm.
squirrels in my brain took me away and I couldn't help it. And like, I'm really sorry. I showed up late. And
Yeah.
like, I take the accountability for it. I take the lumps with it. So I use humor a lot to try to
Mm-hmm.
buffer the not great things,
Sure.
and lean into the superpowers of it because you can't have in their yin and yang. You cannot have the easy without the hard. Like it just doesn't exist in
Mm-hmm.
any kind of
Mm-hmm.
way. So I
Right.
also would be like, well, if I didn't have this problem, then I wouldn't be really good at this thing either. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of try and find the balance between it, and that way we can recognize that, the not great parts aren't great, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't rule out the good parts either. And there's some really good parts. And that's
Oh
why I'm
yeah.
really big on working with my folks because you're not alone, Kai. A lot of my folks, like the looks I get when I call it a gift or when I say, like, what's your ADHD superpower? Some of my folks are like, this thing is terrible. There's nothing good about it. Right.
Right, right. Yeah, it's
um,
it's it's funny because I always need to clarify, right? That like I while I do strongly believe that ADHD is not a superpower, I think sometimes when I say that, people will think that I believe that ADHD is like the worst thing in the history of the world. And I'm like, no, not at all. Like I appreciate my ADHD. It has played a major role in my life, my platform, and my growth, all of
yep.
that. It's just but I always say that have I am how I am despite my ADHD as opposed to because of my ADHD, if that makes sense, right? So like
Mm.
I always want to make sure that people like understand my perspective. But with that said, I have no problem when people say it's a gift, it's a superpower. Like I have like I said before, if it gets you through the day, you do you. Who am I to say? Who am I to say? I'm nothing. you
It's
know,
changing
you
the
know.
narrative from thinking of it as the worst thing ever or seeing it
Yeah,
as a negative.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
when I say that to folks, usually they are pretty, not all my folks are really receptive to that at first, which is okay.
Sure, sure, sure.
That's to each their own. Though
Yeah.
whether you're that way despite your ADHD or because of your ADHD, either way, it's the ADHD is the reason that you are the way
Oh
you are,
yeah.
even if it's
Sure,
despite it.
absolutely.
So,
Sure,
if
absolutely. It plays a major role.
the good
Mhm.
things, even the not so
Mhm.
good things, they're all
Mhm.
part of that. And the ADHD
Yeah.
alone, because there's so many other things that intersect with
Yes.
our neurodivergence and our sense of identity, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you and I, we are able to speak openly and honestly about our ADHD. So like we're
And
able to
that in
have these
itself is a
conversations, right?
gift.
Which is
Yeah.
great. Yeah, absolutely. But I know that there's a lot of people out there that might be watching or listening, and I hear these stories all the time where people sometimes will resist the diagnosis because of fear, because of the
Hmm.
the label that comes with it,
Hmm.
you know so I think you had mentioned that labels are labels, right? And a lot of people are afraid of that label. how do you help a person see beyond that acronym of ADHD? How do you help them see beyond that?
I think a label is there to give us information, the same as any,
Mhm.
like if you think about a label on anything, whether it's, the chemicals you're using, the food product you're purchasing, your health
Mhm.
profile, labels
Mhm.
give us information. So it's what information can we take from this? What are they scared of? I always explore. So what are the fears? And usually
Mhm.
it's, I don't want to be like this, or I don't want this to happen, or I knew this person in the past who had it and I don't want to be like that,
Mhm.
or
Right.
their parent had it, they don't want to be like their parent. So I usually
Mhm.
explore whatever the fear is about having the label. Like, really, what are you afraid of? If you have ADHD,
Mhm.
it's a label, the same as if you have diabetes.
Yeah.
Or, what are you afraid of? What's the
Mhm.
fear of,
Mhm.
like with diabetes, some of my folks might be like, well, the fear is I have to, jab myself with a needle every day. That's a legitimate fear.
Mhm.
Fair. Let's talk about that. So same
Mhm.
with ADHD, like what is your fear? And oftentimes it's the fear of like, what will people think? What will this
Sure.
mean? People will be able to use this against me in some way, or
Mm.
it changes how I think about myself or how I feel about myself. Okay. And how does that change? And is
Mhm.
it better or
Yeah.
worse? I have some
Yeah.
folks who want the label because they'll say things like, it'll help me understand myself and why I've been so different all my life. Like they
Right.
almost feel like it gives them a sense of like, oh, well, now I get it.
Mhm.
So some folks are looking for the label because they're just trying to understand their experience of feeling different. And
Absolutely.
others maybe are afraid of having that experience feel validated by the label.
Right, right. And it's funny you say that because Dr. Russell Barkley, that was one of that's he calls ADHD the diabetes of the brain is what he calls it. And I remember when I was reading that, I was like, I'm sorry, what? But like he goes on to explain it and like the reason behind that obviously it's not literally diabetes, but what he was his explanation, and I might butcher this because I can't remember exactly, but I believe his explanation was when people have diabetes, they don't say, "Hey, I'm smarter because uh uh I I'm really careful about my like sugar intake." Like no, that's not like you are
Mm,
doing this because it's a disorder. It's something wrong that's happening in your body and you have to
course
manage your
correct. Yep.
sugar and all that because of this disorder. And so he calls it the diabetes ADHD the diabetes of the brain because it's the same thing. Like we have to manage our lives in a certain way
Yep.
because of this disorder and things like that. So it's really interesting that you used diabetes because that's Dr. Barkley uses that
I use
term
the
all the time.
diabetes analogy all the time with my folks.
Yeah,
And I'd say to
yeah,
them, like, a lot of my folks who have diabetes choose to live their life in a certain way, whether that's managing
yeah,
sugars, exercise, whatever that looks like,
hmm,
because they feel better when they do,
yeah,
regardless of how the pancreas is working and, what their
hmm,
insulin, they feel better. So
hmm,
the goal is, regardless of your label, let's help you live in alignment with yourself so you feel better,
hmm,
whatever that looks like, right?
yeah,
So that's part of the analogy. Like when I'm using that diabetes to ADHD analogy, is, we tend to course correct or live our lives in a certain way as an effort just to feel better.
yeah,
So how
yeah.
can we do that in a way that's like adaptive to your brain's specific needs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So it's funny because one of this conversation makes me laugh because one of your mantras is this too shall pass like a kidney stone, which
I see this too shall
which I
pass.
love.
It might make me feel like a kidney stone, but oh, it will
Yeah,
pass.
yeah. And I think that goes to what you were saying about how you use humor, to have these kind of conversations. Is there is how did that come to be for you? Like, how did you discover humor as a way to like now? Because like 'cause I'll tell you the reason I ask because it for me. I used to use humor as a defense mechanism, like I as to like
Class
deflect,
clown.
right? Yeah, oh, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
I there was just some trauma that I just never addressed. And like, as opposed to like addressing the trauma or addressing a dramatic situation and processing things in a healthy way, I would just use humor to deflect.
Hmm.
And so it got to a point where I started to learn, thanks to therapy, how to use humor in a healthy way to
Proactively.
help
Yeah.
me understand and to help me process. And that's how my whole platform began. How did it begin for you? How did you discover that humor is a way
Definitely
to
not
have these
as an adaptive
conversations?
strategy as a child, because I butchered humor as a young person. Oh gosh, that was not my
Yeah.
strong suit. Um, kind of being a wallflower is my strong suit back then. So I think, honestly, my own self-compassion work and my own self-acceptance work around
Mhm.
ADHD is where I started to use humor.
Mhm.
Because when I would catch myself in those moments where, you're beating yourself up for that very silly, or I used to say stupid ADHD thing I just did, and I would
Mhm.
be so mad at myself. And through my own self compassion and self acceptance work, humor allowed me to release that anger and frustration
Mhm.
in a way that I could laugh at myself and be like, okay, this is your brain being your brain. And like,
Mhm.
how can we just learn from this, or how do you let it go? And so humor was kind of the first step to regulating the anger or frustration that would come. So as a means of kind of being more compassionate and accepting of myself, which also helps you come against strategies. Because when I'm just using, like when we're in denial or when we're just being mad at ourselves, we're not like, okay, so how can I learn from this next time? Right. But humor
Mhm.
kind of lets you get through the emotion of that frustration to be like, okay, there's my silly brain. It tricked me or it did this thing. So what can I do to help it not make my life chaos in the same way the
Sure.
next time? Right.
Sure.
So humor came for sure as part of that self acceptance and self kindness, and not getting into the dark place about the frustrations of ADHD.
Lori, I very much appreciate you, and one of the things that I appreciate the most is like, we're talking about being authentic, right? And I think just in this time that we've been speaking, you have been your authentic, genuine self. Because like usually people, like, I can see through the BS, right? I think a lot of people can. But you come across as genuine, authentic, and helpful and insightful, and so I very much appreciate that, and I know that the people that listen to this podcast are going to appreciate you as well. If you don't mind, can you tell people, like, say people are like, "Oh, I like this Lori woman. I want to hear more." Like, can you talk about your practice and what you do and who you help?
Yeah, so my clinic's Calming Minds Therapy and Wellness, and we are in Ontario. We work a lot with ADHD, autism, all the ages from kids to adults. Um, I also work with other therapists who are interested in working with people with ADHD or want to train to learn how to use certain modalities like DBT with ADHD. So I'm a big ADHD advocate and passionate therapist about
Mhm.
supporting folks with ADHD and in their acceptance journey versus looking to kind of change it or erode themselves out of it, more to accept it and move forward with it. um,
Right.
we don't have a choice to move forward to,
Yeah.
we have it, it's with us. How do we move forward with it? So folks can find me. We have social Calming Minds Therapy, Calming Minds Wellness. They'll find us. We have a team of folks here, um, ADHD therapists, um,
Mhm.
and therapists who are trained and passionate about working with that population. And I think that's probably the compliment I get the most from other therapists and my clients, is it's like, you really get excited about doing this work, and
Yeah.
like you can tell you're really, and I'm like, yeah, I do. It's I guess that would be, I think, where my gift came from, is the
Yeah.
doing this work and being able to connect with other people. That kind of empathy gene and that feeling what other people feel has really come in handy for the work I do. And so, yeah, folks can
Yeah.
find me on social at Calming Minds Therapy and Wellness. We're in Ontario. And thanks for
Yeah.
joining us and listening today.
Absolutely. I'm gonna include all of those links in the story notes of this podcast. So all you have to do is go into the notes section and click, and all of those links will be there. I have one more question for you, Lori, if you don't mind. I always love to end the podcast with this question, and that is, if there's one thing that you want people to walk away with from this discussion that we had today, what's that one thing?
You are good the way you are. That's one
I
thing.
love it. I love it. Boom.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way. That's the perfect way to end this. Lori, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Thanks, Kai. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. That conversation gave me so much to think about. My biggest takeaway from this interview with Lori was her simple but powerful reminder at the very end. You are good the way that you are. We spend so much of our lives overcorrecting ourselves and hiding behind a mask. Learning to give ourselves grace is the real game changer here. So please make sure you go check out Lori Glenn and Calming Minds Therapy and Wellness. All of her links are going to be right down in the show notes so you can connect with her anytime. And a huge thank you to our presenting sponsor, Sucreabeille. You can check them out at sucreabeille.com and grab our collab scent while you're there. And if you're looking for more free resources to help you navigate your journey, head on over to thevibewithkai.com. You'll find my free blog, my entire free podcast archive, and you can sign up for my free email newsletter. And don't forget, if you want to hear that exclusive Reverse the Mic segment and get full access to my entire ADHD deep dive video library, join the family on Patreon or on Facebook. It's only $5 a month. Be sure to follow me at The Vibe with Kai on your favorite social media platforms. And finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and share it with a friend who might need to hear this today. Once again, thank you so much for watching and for listening. As always, my friends, much love, good vibes. I'll catch you next time. Bye.